Good morning. Happy Monday. So I asked you guys on Instagram, if you follow me, what you guys want to learn about today. I have a few things I'm kind of working on in the background. I've got some more of those pansies. We're going to work on those later this week. But I was bored of the pansies, so I opened it up to questions of what you guys wanted to learn today. So today we're going to be playing with my new Finetec palette. We'll talk about that. And we're going to talk about this guy here. And we had one other question about pansies and how I actually do them, but I've done a little bit of video on them, and I'm going to continue doing video on them, so we will not talk about the pansies today. Happy Monday. So it was spring. This is what happens when you live in the Northeast. It was spring, and now it's winter again. Not too bad. It's about probably high 50s, but raining and gloomy outside, which I actually really like, except that I really prefer seasons to stay within their season. So once spring is hit, I want it to be spring. When December was warm last year, I was very upset by that. So it's raining outside, it's nice and gloomy. I've got my coffee. I actually got up early today. Early is like 7. Okay, fine, it was 7:15. I got up early today. For me, that's early. I am an early person, a morning person, like the Pope is Protestant. So 7:15 is really freaking early for me. I'm not happy about it. But I went and got my hair did this morning. You're in Portland? What time is it? Oh yeah, well, that's about what time I got up this morning. I got my hair did this morning. Nice and red. I've had 3 cups of coffee. I read my book. I practiced my French. So today's a good day. So we're sitting down to work. Alright, so we're going to work on some Finetec. Goodness, I just choked. And thank you. Yes, I'm very fond of my hair this morning. So got my hair did and got a little blowout this morning. I say got like I went somewhere. No, I did it in my bathroom. Yep, so we're going to play with some Finetec this morning, and I'd pick it up and show you, but it's full of water. Yes, I am in the U.S. I am in Philadelphia, just outside Philly. Sure, my hair is naturally this color. Anyway, we'll just move right along after that question. Alright, so I'm going to flip you around. Let's talk about some Finetec. But actually, before I flip you around, we're going to talk about Finetec in that I've never used it before. Ever. For anything. This is the first palette I've bought. I just picked it up this week from John Neal Bookseller with a couple other things I had ordered, and it was just so pretty, and it came in some really nice colors. I actually didn't get the gold palette. I got the one with some pastel iridescence just for funsies. The reason I haven't done the Finetec is because I love the gold ink I use, and the idea of either decanting it or applying it with my brush, I don't have the patience for that, so I don't see a point in using it. I really like my big old jar of it. Do you use Koi watercolor pocket field sketch already? I have absolutely no idea what that is. Finetec, yes, Finetec is made in Germany, actually. It says it right on the cover. Germany. Reading, you have to make sure it's moist. Yes, so I know a little bit about Finetec just from working in the industry and seeing other people use it, but it's also a rock solid palette, so it's kind of an obvious thing to me that you're gonna have to get it wet. So I put some water on mine. It's been sitting there for about 15 minutes. I wanted to get it nice and kind of goopy. So we're gonna flip you around. I'm gonna grab my tripod and we're gonna play around with this a bit. Oh yeah, you can see outside, it's gloomy. Alright, so I've got my brush, which already has copper on it. Rinse it off real quick. I'm from the Philippines. Do you know how to speak Tagalog? Absolutely not. I do not. Not a bit. Not even a little bit. We had 2 of our instructors from the Modern Calligraphy Summit that are from the Philippines. So you can see as I'm mixing it, the hardness, it looks pretty hard. I haven't mixed these yet. It goes away and you definitely get some of that picked up. So what I want to do first is I want to play with it on a brush, and then we're going to put it on on the pen. Oh goodness, you had flash flood warnings? Ew. Alright, the flip. Oh, I wish I could pronounce that. She's giving me how to say good morning to Kali. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is kind of play with this on a light and a dark color. So I pulled 2 envelopes out. These are, see, that one has a return address on it. That was actually blank. This is a cotton Savoy, so we'll see how it does on the cotton. But I want to see with a paintbrush how it looks on both of these colors. There we go. Because it's the iridescent, so it's very light in color, it's very pale. I want to see what it looks like. So let's start with the dark one. I really wish I knew what colors these were. It's not on the label. There isn't a label. How much is the Finetec here? I can actually look that up real quick. Alright, stare at my Finetec palette for just a second and we'll look up the prices of this. Oops, just hit my speaker with my brush. Got some iridescent on there. Let's see, the Finetec Gold, which is a set of 6, is $24 and change. The one I got, which is the Finetec Pearl Colors, is $17.69. Set of 6. From John Neal Bookseller. Okay. Alright, so it's got a, it actually stands up pretty well against the black. I didn't expect it to be that opaque, which is nice. Let's try a white one. Got a little bit of copper in that one. Oops. My brush must have bumped it. This one's a little bit bluer. That first one was a little bit redder. Yeah, you can definitely tell the color difference on the black. And you know what, I should do the white as we go, huh? It's not made only for calligraphy. I see a lot of calligraphers using it, but I also see a lot of people who do gilding and illuminated lettering using it. You can use it for anything. I don't understand. There's kind of this idea that certain things should only be used for certain applications. I am not of that mindset at all. If you want to use it for watercolor, knock yourself out. Alright, so you can definitely see the difference in color on the black, but not so much on the white. In person, as I tilt it, I can see just a little bit difference in the shimmer, but it's pretty darn close. Alright, so the next one. This one here has a little bit of a green to it. What paper do I use in general, or what paper am I using right now? Because right now I'm just using 2 envelopes that were refuse from a different project. This is just a black cotton envelope, nothing exciting. This is a cotton. Alright, same thing here. When you tilt it a tiny bit, you can see the difference in the shimmer, but not much. But it's definitely showing up on the black pretty well. I'm actually pretty surprised at how much it's showing up on the black. Alright, the one we got in the corner is a pretty true white. It doesn't have that differing undertone in it. And it barely shows up on the white. But it's pretty good in black. Alright, now we've got our red and our gold. Not usually a red fan. Let's see how I like this. Oh yeah, that red's pretty awesome, I have to say. And obviously it's going to stand up a little bit better on that white. And last but not least, our gold, which is actually a little bit more of a coppery gold. It's not a true gold. The camera keeps flipping. It's stationary on my side. I can probably flip it the other direction. But you guys are not going to get as good of an angle. I'd have to hold it. Sorry, flipping it around again. There we go. Comment, was it supposed to be better once it's dried? I would totally believe that. Watercolors like that as well. There's paintings I work on that I just don't care for until they dry, and I come back later and think they actually look rather nice. Alright, so here's our 2. See, if I don't flip my camera, I have to actually hold it, because the tripod doesn't allow it to sit vertically and be straight. Yeah, they look pretty good. Alright, so we're going to set those aside and let those dry a bit. So I pulled a few. I'm sorry, you guys are going to have to go horizontal. You'll live. Because that way I can set this up and leave it there. Alright, so when making ink from Finetec, you could do it a couple different ways. Most people load it on to their pen with their brush, which is what I'm going to do because I'm not making a big batch of it. The other thing I've seen people do is they pop out these palettes and put them into like a dinky dip or something like that. A dinky dip, not a calligrapher, it's kind of a weird calligraphy term, are these little guys. They're pretty cute. I have some because I think they're adorable, but I don't use them for ink. You can pop that palette out and put it into one of those small jars and make basically a bottle of ink out of it. So we're going to try this guy. So I've picked some up with my brush. I'm going to add it onto my pen, the nib. Not sure what consistency it's supposed to be. We're just flying blind here. This is why I don't use it, because I don't want to sit here and rebrush every time it runs out. Is it forgiving when it comes to consistency? I'm kind of finding that out, actually. I was wondering how technical this consistency making process was going to have to be. It seems to be pretty easy, actually. I did not measure water or anything, I just kind of threw it on there. I really wish my brush would stop rolling. I have to say, I am pleasantly surprised with how well this stands up against the black. I had played around with it when I first got it the other day. You can see all the splatters on the corner here. But I didn't play around with it on a dark paper. This is actually quite impressive. Alright, I'm going to try this purple guy. I want to see how different they look when they're dried. Yeah, it comes right off your nib too. It's kind of fun. I actually am really liking this consistency. I can see why everybody uses it now. Well, now I don't know what to write. I keep hitting my paintbrush with my hand and getting it all over myself. We'll do the same thing, 2 different colors. Nib I am using, since I always forget to say that and people always ask me, is a Nico or Nico G. Oh, I just spelled flying wrong. Awesome. That's just gonna say Flynn. Throw another N on there. Yep, Flynn it is. See all the splatters from my brush. Alright, I kind of like these guys. Alright, I'm gonna let that dry. Actually, let me do the gold first. We'll do the red and the gold. Since those are the ones I expected to be good. I did not expect these lighter ones to be this awesome. Alright, so I picked up some red, adding it onto my nib. Actually, I can see it's starting to pool, so I'm pulling some off. To match my hair, I'd have to be a little bit of that gold too. We can definitely make that happen. Rinsing my nib off real quick, throw my brush in the water, and let's try some of this coppery gold. Okay, fine. Now I see why everybody likes it so much. That gold's awesome. The consistency is really great. That's what I get for being a naysayer. Alright, we're gonna let this dry. We'll come back to it. I like how I hit the bottom half of that ampersand and got a little bit of red in that gold. We'll come back to that in a second. And let's talk about this flower. Oh, good. She says, watching my periscope she looks forward to. If you guys wonder why I narrate your comments, it's because when these go on YouTube, I just look like a crazy person talking to myself. Unless I narrate the comments on the way. Alright, so here's the cover, just in case you guys are curious. There's no label or anything on the bottom. But this is the Finetec Pearl colors. Their colors are Russet, Regal Bronze. I said this is a little coppery. It's the Regal Bronze. So if you get the gold palette, that's what color gold it is. Mother of Pearl Pink, Silver Pearl, Shimmering Rosetta, R-E-S-E-D-A, E-D-A, Soft Green, and this is the Shimmering Aquamarine here in the corner. I'm reading that off the John Neal bookseller website. And that Finetec palette goes for $17.69. Do they come in individuals? I know gold comes in individual. Let me look. Yes, they do, because they come in replacements for some of the bigger palettes, I believe. You can get Arabic gold, Inca gold, Tibetan gold, moon gold, silver. I don't know if you can get any of the colors. Let me pull up the color palette. Doesn't look like it, not on this website at least. Alright, so let's talk about these flowers a little bit. This is the flower we're looking at. This is from an envelope that I did a few weeks ago. This was one of my mess ups. Not only did I screw up the... I messed up something on this. Maybe, I think it was a zip code. I messed up these lines on the bottom. Yeah, that must be it. Anyhow, this is a style I have not come back to in many, many, many years. When I first started working in my art stuff back in high school through into college, I was never as scared of pen, where a lot of people are, and I wish I had pulled up some of my old artwork that you can see. I use line drawings and pen drawings a lot, and this is a style I really like that's a little abstract. It's kind of one line, continuous line, that type of look. Some of my favorite pieces I've ever done were in that style, and I kind of forgot about it. So I busted it back out and I tried it with paint instead. This leaf is a little jacked up, but you know, whatever. So let's play around with that a bit. So I pulled out one of these envelopes. This is from that set. It's a reject return address. It was one of the ones I messed up. I never know what side is going to be better. Probably that one. So I used a paintbrush for this. For that one, I'm going to actually use a few different sizes and we'll see how they look. I have some of my new ones that I just got, these Scepter Gold. This is a 00, this is a 0. I've got a few other ones that are even smaller. And I actually use my Sumi ink. Open up my ink here. Ink's getting a little low actually. So here's my ink. It's my black Sumi ink. And what I will usually do for a project like this, where I do want the color to vary, if I pull it out of this jar every single time, and it's going to be pretty much the same color black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decant a little bit of water, has some of that Finetec in it, oh well, and pull out some of my ink from my jar and put it into my little palette here. So I can get a little bit more variation in color of that black. And I can always add in water as I go too. This little jar, or this little plate guy, is from Crate & Barrel. It's like $2, $3, something like that. I've got a whole bunch of them. So when I do this flower, it's a basic flower shape, 5 petals. It's nothing terribly exciting, but I try to kind of do it all in one line in a continuous stroke. Obviously with dipping, but right, so that time I dipped into the water instead of the ink. I do want my line to vary. I prefer it to have some thin and some thick to it. I don't know why my leaves are always funny shaped when I do this. I had trouble with them the whole time. I think it's because I don't think far enough ahead. But I do kind of like it to have a little bit of a loose feeling to it. Does a client know you do this, or do they ask you if you can do this for their envelope? So for this particular one, it was one of my own clients. So I had designed her invitations, which also had this look to it. So when I addressed her envelopes, I suggested we use this style. I'll go ahead and put the address on here too. Ashley's clearly not watching my periscope because she's texting me. Shame on her. I did. We talked a little bit about that paintbrush. Give me a sec. Let me do this D. This is Scepter Gold. I think it's a 00? 0. There we go. These are the ones I just ordered the other day. This is actually why I ordered that Finetec palette, because I had gotten some new brushes off John Neal. So I'm cross dipping between the water and the ink. Whoops, a little too much there. That's what happens when I'm talking and writing at the same time. Because I do want a little bit of that variation in the color, and if I just go for my little palette here, I'm not going to get enough variation. What is my best or my favorite resource for envelope etiquette? That's actually a really good question. If I talk about it while I'm writing, I will spell this wrong. So etiquette is a can of worms, I think, to say the least. I feel like etiquette is like anything else on the internet. You can always find a resource that justifies your own stance. Alright, so there we go. It's a little crooked, but I wasn't paying too much attention to it as I was writing because I was talking at the same time. So yep, that leaf is also wonky. Not a fan, but that's okay. When you get a whole set like this together, they look fantastic. So that is how I did that flower. I have a few pieces in a series I've been working on for kind of herb botanicals that are along that same style. You guys will see those eventually. Alright, so etiquette. First I'm going to check on these. They're not quite dry yet. Alright, so let's talk about etiquette. There are plenty of resources for etiquette. I'm going to clean this, hang on. There we go. There are plenty of resources to, well, this is a vintage copy. This is obviously a newer one. And then I have this Miss Manners that's tucked back here that is obviously very old that I actually reference quite a bit. There we go. Etiquette is, like I said, it's a can of worms. You can always find something that justifies whatever particular thing you're looking for. There's a reason I don't have an etiquette section on my website, because every time you say it's supposed to be like this, there's always going to be somebody who says, but so-and-so says to do it that way. There are some resources that I definitely don't pay attention to. I'm sorry, the not. I pretty much ignore everything they say top to bottom. I would say Martha Stewart. Honestly, there has never been an etiquette question or an article through Martha Stewart that I don't agree with. There are definitely some etiquette things that I don't particularly like or agree with. One of them is the woman's name on the envelope. I'm sorry to all you feminists. Mr. and Mrs. Matthew and Melissa Cunningham is not going to fit on an envelope, and technically that etiquette would be incorrect. A lady's first name is never supposed to be attached to her last name when it comes to formal etiquette, so it should be Mr. Matthew Cunningham, Mr. and Mrs. Matthew Cunningham. Her first name should never be listed. And I get clients all the time that want that. I say, I'm sorry, it's just not gonna fit. I've seen posted on Instagram Mr. John Smith and Mrs. Gloria Smith, or John and Gloria Smith at casual. Okay, casual's fine. If that's what you're going for, casual's totally fine. I have plenty that I've done just first names on. I don't prefer to do it that way. I prefer the formal etiquette, but that's also because I do a formal form of artwork. So it depends if you're having a casual wedding or not. I think your etiquette should reflect the formality of your event. So if you're having a birthday party, sure, casual's fine. Rehearsal dinner, casual's fine. Wedding, I do think it should be formal. No matter what level of formality your wedding is, it's a wedding. I kind of feel like they should always be done with a little bit of reverence to the formality and the proper etiquette, but that's just me. Attaching two names with an and indicates that they are married but have two different last names. That's something that most people don't understand. So if it was Mr. Matthew Cunningham and Mrs. Melissa Cunningham, or Mrs. Melissa Fritz, that would indicate that they actually are married, but she has kept her maiden name. Most people don't know that. Yeah, it's super confusing. It's kind of a flow chart that formal, do you mean tuxedo and long dresses? No, that's black tie. I mean formal as in you dress up, you look nice, you show up on time, formal. There are different levels of formality. So black tie would be one. Black tie optional is not a thing. Please stop putting this on your invitations. Your invitations should be indicative themselves of what your formality is. I had a client back in December that we had this conversation. Her sister-in-law got married. The invitation, well, what my client said was she didn't really like it. She didn't really like their invitation. Anyhow, okay, so her wedding dressed too casually. See, business casual to me means a suit. Like, if you tell me business casual, I'm going to probably wear slacks or a nice dress, but it'd be something I wear to the office, not to a cocktail party. Anyhow, so let's talk about this client in December because it was an interesting situation. Everybody showed up to this, her sister-in-law's wedding, very casual, and oh my goodness, her mother-in-law was not happy. I look at this invitation. It was a wedding in the middle of the day, on the beach, not at the beach, on the beach, and the invitation had a starfish glued onto it with like raffia or a bow on it or something like that. Well, no wonder people showed up casually, peeps. This is an informal invitation with an informal style in the middle of the day, in the middle of the summer, with a starfish on it at the beach. Of course it's informal. I don't know why people would expect you to dress formally with an invitation like that. For a formal wedding, so my client in December was a formal wedding. Her invitation was black and white with a red wax seal, silver details, formal calligraphy, and her wedding was at night in December, right before Christmas. I'm gonna go with formal. So her mother, or the conversation was black tie optional needs to be on the invitation. I'm like, it doesn't need to be on the invitation. It doesn't. Black tie optional means if you want, you can wear a tuxedo. We live in a time where no one owns a tuxedo except my boyfriend, who owns several because we dance. And you're not going to expect your guest to go out and rent a tuxedo as a guest for your wedding. So black tie optional, not a thing, guys. Cocktail attire, sure. Except you don't really need to designate your guest's attire unless it's black or white tie. Because it's a wedding and your invitation should set the level of formality and the expectation for your guest's attire. If people ask, tell them. I made the mistake one time. I went to a girlfriend's wedding up in Napa and I wore this beautiful silk gown, gownish. It was below my knees but not to the floor. It was a BCBG runway piece. It was great. And like this taupey nude. Yeah, well, it was the same color that her sister wore as her maid of honor. So I was like, I felt really bad, but I knew what her colors were and I wanted to match her color scheme because it drives me crazy when you have pale wedding and you have one guest that's wearing like bright blue shirt or something crazy like that. It drives me crazy. So I wore a color that I knew would look good in all of her photographs. And it was the same color as her maid of honor. Now, neither one of them were upset. I was apologetic and they looked at me like I was nuts. But yeah, level of formality. I also did her invitations and I helped with all the reception pieces because she was a friend of mine, so I knew what her formality was. But yeah, level of formality should be indicated by the invitation. The wording on the invitation can also be indicative of it. If it's like, hey, we're getting married. Okay, hold on. Silly question. Would you show all the pieces? Oh, personally, will I show you all the pieces of an invitation suite? Is that what you're asking? That means I have to dig out an invitation. I have Mars. Yeah, okay. And I forgot what I was saying first. Oh, wording wise, if you say, hey guys, we're getting married together with our families, we're all getting married, we're getting hitched, it's going to be awesome. That would be casual to me. Formal usually has parents' names listed. If both parents are hosting, lists their names. It doesn't have to leave them off. Let me pull out some invitations. I'm going to set you down for a second. Look at that pretty piece. And let me grab some things for you. Alright, so I don't have all the pieces totally together. So let me throw an envelope liner in here to get the full effect. Oh, see, there's Ashley. I just called you out, girl. I'm like, clearly she's not watching because she's texting me instead. And yes, I did the smoky eyes today because I'm running out of time to do it. I don't usually do smoky eyes in the summertime. I think it's inappropriate. Alright, so my second envelope liner is an oops print because it printed on white instead of the warm white. Ashley has failed me. Okay, so if you're just catching us, we are talking about formality and invitations. This is kind of a huge pet peeve of mine. And then we're going to go back and look at our Finetec. Alright, so here's our invitation. Like I said, this envelope liner was on the wrong paper, so I have a few. Somehow I got some white paper mixed in with the warm white. Alright, so if you guys saw this on my Instagram a few months ago, it had a piece of parchment that was on top of here with a wax seal in the middle with a red fair monogram wrapped in some really nice thin kind of burgundy. Are the envelopes closed in a way that doesn't destroy the envelope liner? Not really. Usually if you do mailing outer, you line the inner envelope that's not sealed so they don't rip open the envelope liner. Alright, so this is a very formal invitation. The calligraphy is done on white, or in white, which matches all the calligraphy. And yes, somebody asked if this was handwritten. Yes, this is all. It's handwritten and scanned in, so it's not handwritten each one. So all of the lettering is hand done. All of the illustration is hand done. The artwork's hand done. And then we have the backs of all of these. Obviously, I just flip that over upside down. So we got the pine cones, the pine, and then their monogram. So yes, this is a pretty formal imitation, and black tie optional is not necessary because of the formality that the imitation indicates. This paper, I think actually this is just waste not, which is Paper Sources Wholesale, and it's about 200 pound, 220. Printed lettering, also handwritten. This is all handwritten. Obviously, if you like how I just got a stamp stuck to this as I was pulling it out of the box, and I ripped part of the paper off. Alright, let's talk about artwork. This confuses everybody. What I should have done is, if I had known we were going to talk about this today, I would have pulled out the original pieces. They are in a pile to my right. It'll take me a minute to find them. I'm kind of tempted to try it. Okay, stare at this pretty for a minute. Let me see if I can find the originals. Okay, so I found part of the original artwork and lettering. And I'm going to see if I can pull up her sketch as well. I think you guys have seen my sketch notebook before. This is all the sketches I do for my clients. So this is mine. Outer and inner envelopes. Alright, we'll talk about that too. Alright, so this is actually not our final... Oh, I know where our final sketch is. It's actually up on my wall still. Let me pull it down real quick. This sketch is about 4 other sketches taped to it, which is why it's still on my wall. There we go. Take those back up later. Alright, so this one we did 2 sketches to determine what pieces we were going to do. So we'll look at these in sections. I really wish I had a suite that was totally assembled to show you. You have to look it up on my Instagram. Okay, ask me that again when we talk about the Finetec again. Alright, so here's the sketch we put together. We had played around with doing this as a folded piece. The budget just didn't quite allow for it, so we did something else instead. And we switched out envelopes to a pointed flap at the end. So this is the sketch that we started with. This is the 3 silos is from her venue. And obviously it's December, so we wanted to do a little bit of Christmassy. So then we did her artwork and lettering. So this is part of her lettering. And I'm actually not sure where all her lettering is. This is her lettering sample page. So I do a bunch of different styles. And then she chooses which one she likes the best. I don't usually work on ivory. This is pretty dark ivory paper. This is just what I had nearby, so I used it. Alright, so here's some of her artwork pieces. I just grabbed pieces of fairly nice. This is the Arches watercolor paper. Now ask me that again when we're talking about the Finetec, because I'll forget. So I knew what pieces I needed to do because of her sketch. So I knew I needed something that was round. So here's part of the round. Here's the bottom that I knew was going to go here. And I knew I needed a few extra pieces. And then I did her acorn or her pinecone somewhere else. Here is her silo that I ended up just duplicating, repeating and duplicating digitally. Ah, here's her lettering. So I do all the lettering that I need. Here's some more branches and such. Alright, so I scanned all those in. So these are all of her originals. I scanned them all into my computer. I did a digital layout using all of these different pieces. So in the layout, you end up with these. This actually has some silver dots on it too. You kind of see them. It's silver foil dots, like hand gilding foil. So you can see here's the silo, and it is the same silo 3 times, artwork, and then all the lettering. And then her envelope liners were from the same artwork, and addressed. And we did a stamp for her return address, so I don't have this one, the address on it. So that's a little bit about the process. The text is all handwritten. Remember back here where I said I did all of her hand lettering? Let's pull this back out. It's actually kind of hard to sort through papers with one hand. Sorry about that. There it is. So here's her lettering. For goodness sake, with the Finetec, we'll get back to the Finetec, I promise. So okay, so this is her lettering. This is the style she chose. I wrote everything out. This is the one we ended up using. This is actually more of her sample lettering. So this is the one we used. I wrote everything out. There's another page that has the please reply on it. The text. Oh, gotcha. The little guys. Oh no, that's typed. Yeah, that's definitely font. Yeah, no one writes like that. I said repeat your question when you get back to the Finetec. Sorry. I try not to jump around too much because I have an attention span like a goldfish anyhow. Alright, so yes. The little guys are typed. This stuff is all hand lettered. Alright. So that's kind of beginning to end process. That assembly, there's a lot of invitations for this project. It took me like a week to assemble everything. Alright, so let's go back to our Finetec. Let's check in and see how you guys are doing. Okay, so back to the Finetec question. Her question was, can you use it as a dip pen? That's how I wrote these. And yes, I use a template for the liner. I actually print the template on the liner since they're all custom printed, and then I cut them all at once. I am really shocked with how good this white turned out. I'm really impressed. The gold's fantastic. The red's fantastic. All right, fine. I might be a Finetec convert. This is still a little bit wet. Yeah, I'll do another one with writing. So this is all the different colors on the black. Here's all the different colors on the white. Alright, I'll do one more thing of writing, and then I'm going to get to work, because it is 11 o'clock in the morning. I've been up since 7, and I haven't done anything, work-wise. Alright, so my paints are still a little bit wet. Re-wet them a bit. Let's use... I'll use this guy. That was a much bigger brush than I anticipated it being. Grabbing a smaller brush, I wiped some of the water off so I don't add too much water into this palette. So we talked about 2 different ways you can load a dip pen with this. Inner and outer envelopes. Alright. Let me write this and then we'll talk about the blasted inner and outer. I dislike inner and outer, but I'll tell you why in a second. Alright, so you can either load this on with your brush, or you can pop out these guys out of your palette and drop them into a little jar and just make a batch. That's what I would do if I was using these. If I had to load my brush every time, I would go insane. Looks a little subdued on the white compared to the black. Yeah, these are all the iridescent paints, which is, I actually expected them to not show up on the black at all, and they stood up pretty well. Is it saying A-I-N or A-N-E? This is the Nico. It's Annie. Guys, I can't spell. I'm sorry. I never learned how to spell as a kid. Moved to schools too much. That looks right. Okay, so this is the Nico. You can see the G. This is the Finetec palette. It is the Finetec Pearl colors. The one I just used was Silver Pearl, this guy here. I'm just cleaning off my nib a little bit. So yeah, these actually work really well. Color me impressed. Yeah, not so much on the white, but on the black, they look fabulous. How do you mass produce the liners for all these envelopes? I print them. I literally print them on a page and they have cut marks on the edge. Yeah, okay, I'm doing this once, guys. I'm not doing this forever. Otherwise, I'll never stop. I'm gonna write her name real quick. I'm gonna do it with this one. We didn't use this one. Alright, I caught that quickly, so I'm hoping I'm gonna spell your name correctly. Patrice. Of course you have a P. I hate P's. P is my least favorite letter. Lowercase p. I'm gonna mix some colors here. So I used two different colors there. You can see the green and then the red. It's kind of fun. Alright, if you're going to take a picture, take one out. There you go. At least it's straight. Alright, so that's a little bit about Finetec today. If you guys missed the first half, we also talked about making some of these guys, these flowers. You can catch the replay. It'll be up on YouTube. Alright, so that's it for today. Inner and outer envelopes. Okay. Alright, so inner and outer envelopes is actually an old tradition that's a little antiquated and outdated. The reason for inner and outer. Thank you for your persistence. There's a reason for them. I actually got my V today. If you guys catch the periscopes often, I have all sorts of different letters. Okay, inner and outer was because back in the day, when our parents had to walk uphill to school, both ways, so cold they're carrying a hot potato, and yes, I'm drinking coffee. Just a cafe au lait. The United States Postal Service was even worse than it is today, if you can believe it. But because of that, envelopes had to be a little bit more protected than they are now. So the outer envelope was to protect the inner envelope from getting totally destroyed. These days, with the Postal Service, most of the time, because sometimes the USPS sucks and destroys things anyway, nowadays, the outer envelope that we usually mail things in, it gets a little scuffed up once in a while, but generally it stays pretty clean. We don't have the need to protect it so much from wind and rain and things that, you know, we had to protect it from 100 years ago. The other thing with inner and outer is you can be a little bit more clear on who you're inviting. So traditionally the outer envelope would be to Mr. and Mrs. Matthew Cunningham, and then the inner envelope would be Matthew, what did I say her name was? Melissa. And then maybe if they were inviting their kids as well, it would be Matthew, Melissa, next line, Angela, Tyler, and Bree would be their children. You can be a little bit more specific, which is good when you're inviting families and you don't want to invite everybody under the sun. Like, say you're inviting their older children but not their younger babies. You could do it on your inner envelope, where you can't really do that on the outer envelope etiquette-wise. So, you know, you can also do and guest on an inner envelope, but because inner envelopes have kind of gone to the wayside a little bit because they're not really necessary, a lot of people are doing and family and guest on the outer envelope. Technically, it's not correct etiquette, but it's one of those etiquette that it is what it is. I hate having inner envelopes because that means I have to write on all of them. So to me, I'm totally fine just doing outer. And if you want to do slightly incorrect etiquette and do and family or and guest on your outer envelope, it's going to save me a few hundred envelopes for inner envelopes, so I'm totally fine with it. But that's why you have outer and inner. Initially, it was to indicate your guests further and protect your envelope from getting totally destroyed. So you'd open your outer envelope, and your inner envelope containing your invitation would still be nice and pretty and have your names on them, obviously calligraphed, because how else would you do it? So that's the purpose of outer and inner. Not very often do people use them. That set I had last week with all that rose gold that I screwed up, that was an inner and an outer, which is why I screwed it up. If you didn't catch that periscope, it's not going on YouTube. You missed out. Okay, that's it for today. It is now 11 o'clock. It's 11:10. Let's get to work. Any other questions you guys have that you want to address, hit me up on Instagram. Today's post, I said what questions you want me to answer, and any other questions that pop up on there from the end of this broadcast, I'll get to you tomorrow. Sounds good. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Happy Monday. Need to get out of your PJs? Okay, hold on. Let's just be real. I'm wearing a sweater. It has really pretty lace on the bottom, but I'm wearing pajama pants because I was cold and my jeans were too cold to put on. They were downstairs in the laundry room and they were cold. So I have my pajama pants on, and I definitely have bedroom slippers on. Beggars and choosers. Anyhow, bye guys. Catch the replay if you're just catching up with us, but I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.